everyone, and welcome back to yet another tutorial for Adobe Premiere Pro. So my goal for today is to go over how to navigate in this space. Now that you have a project created, we need to know what everything is, where everything is, and have a general idea of what you can expect to see when you're working in Premiere. So let's start off with basic navigation. So at this point in your project, you probably have a completely empty sequence. You don't have anything that looks like this yet, and that is totally fine. I have a practice assignment open here that I did for my video production class because I wanted to show you what a completed sequence looks like so I can show you what everything is and where everything goes. So the first thing I want you to notice is that your file menu is at the top. This is just like it was in Photoshop, so that is exactly the same. The menus are obviously different, but the where it's located is exactly the same. Down here in the bottom left corner, you're going to have your project window. Anything that you import for your project is going to end up here. That's why it's called the project window. So you'll see here that I have a bunch of video clips. I have some audio clips. I can see that because it's like a little green, this is called a waveform. So I know that that's audio and then all these other things are video. And so if you ever import pictures or anything else, it'll always end up in your project window. So if for some reason you have clicked on one of these other tabs that's in here, we're not going to get into what these are, but if you ever end up kind of lost and you've lost your project window, it should be in the project tab right here. You can also click on these little double arrows and navigate to some other tabs, but the project window should always be here. Generally, it's going to be over here on the left, but I'll show you sometimes it's not going to be over on the left, and that's okay. Right here in the middle, I have my toolbar. You might notice that some of these tools look similar to or the same as what they were in Photoshop. Obviously, we have way fewer tools in Premiere than we do in Photoshop because there just isn't as much to do. So yeah, that's why we don't have a whole list of them, but they do look similar. The type tool is exactly the same as far as what it looks like. The hand tool is the same. So some of these are the same. The selection tool is the same as well. And just like in Photoshop, you can click and hold on any of these tools and see what is underneath them. Because we're just kind of getting into the basics of Premiere, I'm not going to show you all of these tools at all. You're really only going to learn, by the end of this quarter, you're really only going to learn 4 of these. So not nearly as many as you might think because you really don't need to know all of them in order to get the basics down in Premiere. So that is the project window. Here is the tool palette. Over here on the top right, this is called your program window. And the reason I know all of these names is because it tells you right here. I'm not some genius. Project window, program window, source window, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So your program window is going to show you whatever is in your sequence. So I can click on this little blue cursor thing down here at the bottom, which we're going to talk about in a second. But as I scroll through my video sequence, you can see that my video is playing up here. So that is your program window. This panel over here on the left, you're not going to use a ton at the very beginning. Eventually, once we start adding effects and doing some other things, you will see some things that we'll use over here, but for now, it's going to remain empty. If you ever double click on a clip or something in your project window, you'll notice that it opens over here, which is totally fine. Having something open over here for now is not going to hurt anything. It's just there. We're not going to mess with it for now. Now, the majority of the time that you're going to spend in Premiere is going to be spent working in the sequence or the timeline. So it's really important that you understand how to navigate in this space. So I'm going to spend quite a bit of time talking about how to work in your sequence. So a couple things I want you to notice before we start is that basically, just like Photoshop, Premiere has layers. So you'll see over here that I have these layers that are on top. All of these layers here, which we call them tracks in video, we call them tracks instead of layers. But I have 3 tracks up here. I can add more tracks if I need to. But the tracks work the same way as they do in Photoshop. So the one that's on top is the one that you can see. So these are 3 video tracks. So I can see this text right here, then I see this video, so on. Here I have something interesting happening. I have a video, but I also have text on top of it. So that's why I can see the text on top of the video. All right, so it's on top of it in a separate track. Same thing here, I have some more text, and that is on top of the video. So that's why I can see, just like in Photoshop, if you have a transparent background, like I do for the text, I can see the text with the video background behind it. So in Premiere, we have layers, but they're called tracks. And the one that's on top, as far as video goes, is the one that you can see. So if I had a video on top of another video, I would only see the one that's on top. I would not see the one underneath it unless I change the opacity or something like that. So that's what that looks like. Down here on the bottom, I have my audio tracks. Right now I just have one audio track or one piece of audio, but if I had separate pieces of music, or I have sound effects, anything like that, I can also kind of layer my audio on top of each other. And audio is different in that whatever is there is going to be heard unless I mute something, which we'll talk about when we get to audio. But basically anything that's here and unmuted, you're going to hear. So it's a little different than the video in that, like I put two videos on top of each other, I can only see the top one. With audio, if you see it there, you're going to hear it unless it's muted. So a little different there. A couple of things that you'll want to note is that there's this little eye icon. That's very similar to what it was in Photoshop. So if I want to turn off a track for some reason, I can click on the little eye icon and turn it off and turn it on. I honestly don't really ever use that, but it is there if you want to use it. The audio track has some other settings. The M button is for muting a track. Again, I'm just kind of going over basic stuff. You'll see this more when you're actually practicing, but I'm just kind of getting you familiar with it, and especially things that a lot of students will ask about. The S button is called solo track. Basically, if I had a bunch of different audio tracks here and I only wanted to hear one, I could click on S, and that is the track I'd be able to hear. Everything else would be muted. So sort of the opposite of muting. And then this is the voiceover record button. We'll talk about that another time. So as far as how to get around in this space, now that you know what everything is, as far as how to get around, you can click on this blue thing. It's called a playhead. I can click on that and drag it anywhere in my sequence. I can click on it down here. I often, when I'm editing, I click on this little tag looking thing and drag it around. And that is called the playhead. I can also click anywhere up here in this time area, this timeline area, and it'll jump to wherever I am. So I don't have to click and drag it. If I don't want, I can just click anywhere. So wherever the playhead is, you're gonna need to know where it is because you're gonna use it a lot for editing and just for getting around. But wherever the playhead is where it will start to play from that spot. So if I press the space bar right now, it will start playing from this spot. So it's playing, that's great. If I move it over here and press the space bar, it plays from there. So a few keyboard shortcuts that you're gonna wanna keep in mind, because I promise the more efficient you are with editing, the better time you're gonna have. So I'm gonna throw a bunch of keyboard shortcuts out at you. And if I know of a different way of doing them rather than the keyboard shortcut, I'll let you know. But honestly, the keyboard shortcuts save you so much time. So the spacebar, as I just said, is the play and stop button. So I can stop there. You can click on this little play button and the stop button if you want. It's just the less you have to use the mouse, the better. The left and right arrow keys will help you go forward one frame at a time, and I'll explain what a frame is, but it'll help you go one frame forward at a time or back at a time. So the right arrow key, I'm pressing that a few times on my keyboard, and you'll notice that the flags are kind of waving. I'm going forward one frame at a time every time I press the button. And then if I want to go back one frame at a time, I can press the left arrow key, or I can press and hold it and it'll keep going. So a frame in video is it's kind of like a millisecond in time. So the cameras that we tend to use and the editing software we use uses 29 frames per second. So it goes really, really slowly. It'll become clear to you as you start to edit why you need to be using the left and right arrow keys to advance one frame forward or backward at a time. I'll show you an example of when Miss Lazat and I nerded out and used this editing software to do something, and we used the left and right arrow keys a lot to do this. So this is the trailer for season 3 of Stranger Things. If you're not familiar with the show, it's okay. This is the trailer, so no spoilers. But we were super excited when the trailer came out before the season had come out, and we really decided that we needed to really analyze this trailer to see everything that was in it. So I downloaded it, and then we imported it into Premiere, and we just went frame by frame through this trailer so we could catch anything that we couldn't see when it was playing in real time. So if you watch it on YouTube, like you can advance frame by frame in YouTube, and I did discover that after the fact, but this just shows you the lengths we're willing to go to be nerds. So yeah, we were able, I'm just pressing the right arrow key right now to advance forward a little bit at a time, and then the left arrow key would let me go backward 1 frame at a time. So we really could see, we were trying to figure out who is this? Whose arm is that? That doesn't look healthy. Who could this possibly be? And going 1 frame forward or backward at a time really helped us with that whole thing. So anyway, that is how you can use the left and right arrow keys to go forward and backward frame by frame. The up and down arrow keys I find really helpful, but my students don't ever really, I don't think they really use this, but I do. The up arrow will get you to the beginning of the clip that comes before the clip that you're on. So if you look at my sequence, the playhead is at the beginning of this clip. If I want it to go 1 clip backward to the beginning of the clip before it, I can press the up button. This might not be clear why you would use it, but eventually it might be clear to you. I like to use it just to navigate really quickly, clip to clip. The down arrow key goes to the clip forward, the beginning of the clip next. So that's that. As far as keyboard shortcuts go for now, that's really it. The up and down arrow keys, the left and right arrow keys, and the space bar are really going to become key. Another thing that I wanted to show you in the sequence, or sometimes I call this a timeline. I use those words interchangeably, timeline, sequence. The last thing I want to show you are these, they're scroll bars, but they're also used for zooming, because that's where we're at. So if I click on this bar down here at the bottom, I can drag it anywhere in the sequence, which is great, especially when you have a ton going on in your sequence. You're going to need to know how to do that. I can do the same thing if you look over here on the left, or I'm sorry, on the right. I can scroll up and down here. I have a lot of students who will use this accidentally, and then they feel like their videos are all gone, their video tracks are all gone, or their audio tracks are all gone. And no, you just have to scroll back up or scroll back down depending on what you've done. So just remember that those are for scrolling. And that's just when I click on this gray line here. I know it's all kind of gray, but you can also zoom into your sequence by clicking on either of these circles on the left or right of this on this line. So if I click on this one and drag to the left, you'll see that it's zooming in to my sequence. There's a really good reason why you would need to do this, and really why you want to know how to go back and forth. When you're getting into editing and you're really making very small edits, when you zoom in, it's a lot easier for you to see what you're doing when you're trying to do something really small. Also, when you're editing audio, which we'll talk about this later, it's really helpful to be able to look at the waveforms and be able to see where you need to make a cut. So eventually this will become really important to know how to zoom in and out. Some students will have their sequences look really tiny, and they're trying to make these edits, and I'm like, you really can't edit that way. So, trying to find a happy medium here is going to make your job a lot easier, but just knowing how to zoom in and out is going to be important. And then you can do something similar over here with zooming in and out. Basically, when you zoom in and out on the video track or the audio track, it's really just making that track taller. I don't really use this a ton for video at all. What I do, though, use it for is for audio. So we'll talk about this more when we get to audio editing, but I do use it quite a bit for audio. So there's one more thing I want to show you as far as navigation goes, and that is these different workspaces up here at the top are going to be really important. So right now you can see that mine is set to editing, and that's because the work I'm doing right now is editing. However, when we get into using transitions and effects, you're going to end up clicking on the effects layout. This is not changing the project itself, it's just changing the layout. This is not like Photoshop. Photoshop, you basically had the same layout the whole time, but depending on what work you're doing, you will have different layouts in Premiere. So this will help me focus just on the transitions and effects. If I'm going to be working with audio, I would go to the audio layout, and that will help me focus on audio. And then the last one we'll get into eventually has to do with text, and that is the graphics layout. So for the most part, you're going to be this editing space is going to be your home area. You can kind of see what the others do. We're not going to get into color too much. Assembly I never use. Learning could be helpful if you want to do some of the built-in tutorials. But for the most part, you'll be in editing. So hopefully this gives you an idea of how you're going to work in this space, and then I'm going to show you next how to edit in this space.